When you do that, do you announce it to people or you just kind of quietly derobe
Well, back then
unwrapped whatever?
I had a body that I wasn't ashamed of. I couldn't do it today. I don't even take my shirt off in my own house.
Hello and welcome back to Dodgers Debate. I'm Jack Harris, LA Times Dodger beat writer, along with our columnists, Bill Plaschke and Dylan Hernandez, who I know, like me today on this MLB trade deadline day, got in front of their computers, were ready for a day of exciting action, watched a bunch of big names get moved in some stunning trades. Fortunately, none of them had anything to do with the Dodgers, who had a very quiet trade deadline. They acquired Brock Stewart, the right-handed reliever from the Minnesota Twins, a former Dodger pitcher who has been good, is probably a little underrated for what he brings to the team, especially as a righty who's good against righties and can give them another option in the bullpen. They got Alex
I
Call.
thought Brock Stewart was a backup quarterback.
Flash, have you ever heard of Alex Call before?
Never heard of him. This is stunning. This is unbelievable. This is what a whiff. I counted six top relievers went to different teams. None
This
of them
isn't
the
even a whiff,
Dodgers.
Flash. They struck out looking.
I think
Yeah, that's
that's
a
more
good point.
appropriate. Yes.
Do we know if they tried to get him and they couldn't get him because they didn't have the prospects, so they didn't want to trade a prospect?
With all of the relievers that moved today, the Dodgers definitely had the pieces to match some of those deals. Their farm system right now, I mean, this was a weird deadline for them, taking a step back. Their farm system right now doesn't have a ton of upper level impact players that are going to impact big league rosters in the next year or two. Their best prospects are they have a bunch of really good outfielders in high A right now, but you look at the pitching, all these young pitchers that have come up over the last couple of years. Most of them have gotten hurt. Some of them have gotten dealt away. They have a lot of depth in the farm system, which is why, again, they could have put together, like they had the ability to put together better deals. But the Dodgers, under Andrew Friedman's leadership, have been very wary of trading for relievers at the deadline. The few trades that they have been burned on in terms of giving up guys who have become real players have been in deals for rental relievers. And I think when they looked at it this year, as they talked about going into the deadline, and as general manager Brandon Gomes said after the deadline today, they think that the core of the team they have, the team that they built back in the offseason when they spent $500 million and built this $400 million roster, they think that that group is talented enough to take them to a second straight World Series. They're expecting better performances out of Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and Teoscar Hernandez in the second half of the season. They feel confident that their pitching is going to stay healthy, that Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow are going to be good in the rotation, and Blake Trinan and Michael Kopech and Brusdar Graterol can come back in the bullpen. They are betting on the group that they had. They looked at the prices on the market, deem them too high, which they were high, especially like the relievers. Like this was not the kind of deadline that was in the Dodgers' wheelhouse in terms of trying to get deals done. But with how uneven they've been over the start of the season, and to me, the fact that so many of these contenders in the NL got so much better today. I mean, the Padres added seven players to their big league roster. The Mets and the Phillies made huge upgrades to their bullpen and added some nice outfield pieces that were probably better than Alex Call. So it's the Dodgers address their needs to some extent, and I think if the Brock Stewart thing works, that could be a nice piece to have in October. But yeah, this is for a team that we've seen a lot of flaws out of over the first 4 months of the season. It was a quiet deadline, and it's putting a lot of faith in the guys that they have to be better over the final 2 months here going into October.
The last two times I've been this down about the team after the trade deadline, they were beat by the Padres and swept by Arizona. This could be the beginning of the end. This feels like the beginning of the end. It feels like they raised a white flag on the season. How can they make it? Who's going to close games? You all tell me who's going to have the ball for
Closer by
Walker
committee.
Bueller?
Closer by committee.
That's insane. I just think it's crazy they didn't get a closer. If I watch Michael Conforto chase down a fly ball one more time and lose it in the corner, you're gonna have that in the ninth inning of a playoff game. It's nuts. What happened to the Dodgers is nuts.
This is the reality of this, right? I mean, last week we were kind of talking about, hey, if they kind of fumble if they kind of fumble things at the deadline, who does it fall on? Does it fall on Friedman, this and that? And yes, it does, right? But uh, they won last year, and the reality is that even in an organization like this, where I think there's an expectation, that they win every year, short of them kind of just completely falling off a cliff and being like non-competitive, look, a World Series buys you 5 years minimum grace period. And this feels a little bit like, hey, look, we're all kind of safe here. Let's not do anything too rash and just kind of play this thing out. But yeah, I'm kind of with Plash. I'm just kind of, well, you too, Jack. It just kind of sounds right. We're all kind of underwhelmed here.
The kind of prices they're charging fans, they can't play it safe. Andrew Freeman has never played it safe. He's always done great things during this time of year. You could argue Freeman was the reason they won last year, getting Flaherty and Kopech and Edman.
Yeah, I think so, and we've talked about this before, I think even in the years where they didn't do anything, that I think, look, like they are pretty adamant, I think, about, right? They want to win like every deal. And when you kind of take that position, what ends up happening is you're letting the market dictate to you what you're going to do rather than I mean, the Padres are obviously kind of on the other extreme of things, right? It's like, okay, we don't care what's going on. We don't care what the price is. We're going to go on. We're going to get the pieces that we think we need to win. And I think probably, yeah, over like a long-term type thing, like obviously what the Dodgers doing, are doing kind of right by being mindful of like prices and stuff in terms of long-term success, it's probably better for that. Now, again, my counter to that would just be, again, you have three kind of future Hall of Famers at the top of your lineup right now. When Will Smith, right, with being like a fourth guy there. Again, this window isn't going to be open forever, and frankly, it might already be closing. Right, we're not sure Mookie Betts is going to be Mookie Betts again. And I just kind of think that when you have special players like that, and a bunch of them, kind of, especially on a baseball team at the same time, you kind of have an obligation to maximize that window, and I don't really feel they've done that by what they did today or didn't do today.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here. Do you trust that Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez are going to be better than they have been the last couple of months? Because I think when it came to the offense and the outfield, because I think we got to like put these in kind of two separate buckets. When it came to the lineup, the thinking, and I think there's more kind of credence here, is that on the season, they're still leading the league in scoring. In July, they were really bad, but they were really bad in July because Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Teo, Shohei, like everybody was slumping. Really, outside of Michael Conforto, might have been the only hot hitter they had. You don't like this deadline, especially. You weren't going to change that. There just weren't enough impact bats on the market, especially ones that would have fit the Dodgers roster that are going to save you if 3/4 of your star core is doing bad in October. And while yes, you could have got a like better outfielder, maybe like a Harrison Bader, or had they, Stephen Kwan was kind of lingering out there, but the Guardians didn't seem like they really wanted to part with him. It kind of felt like Tarek Skubal last year a little bit, right? Where it's like he's not really available unless you make some crazy offer. Um, it's there's only so much that they were going to be able to do, I think, to change the dynamic of an offense that still runs through the top 5 or 6 guys in the lineup. And so buying a little bit lower on a guy like Alex Call as opposed to some of these other outfield options, it's not, I guess it's like meh, right? Like if Michael Conforto keeps hitting, the way Michael Conforto hit in July is probably what you would want out of a deadline acquisition anyway. So if you're banking on him to be a little bit better, and then more importantly, banking on your star players to
What did
play
he hit, like
closer,
250?
he's hit like 280 over the last
Okay,
26
all right.
games.
I
Yeah.
apologize.
But the big one is, and Andrew Friedman talked about this before the deadline, is they are believing in the watermarks of their core players to get back to that. I mean, if you're disappointed in this, is that a signal that you just don't really, from what you've seen so far this year, trust some of these guys to be at that level to help them kind of put together the kind of offense they did last year when the lineup really did kind of carry them to a World Series?
I gotta tell you, Freddie's. I know he had a big hit the other day. He doesn't look right. Mookie doesn't look right. They're not getting any younger. I think they still have a championship in them or two, but they need the defense and they need the pitching.
Yeah, I kind of do think that they're going to have to find like maybe a different ways to kind of win. Like let's throw Muncy in there too, right? I feel comfortable with Freddie. I feel comfortable with Muncy. I don't know what's going on with Betts. At this point, like, sure, like, look, he's not going anywhere, obviously. You got to bet on him, right? I've said this before. It's not a bad guy to bet on from a track record and character standpoint. But yeah, I'm not 100%, I'm not sure you can really count on them to kind of win games like that, right? And the thing is, even if they had that, okay, like let's just say they all kind of come back and they all kind of, right, all start hitting at the same time and the offense looks great, it doesn't kind of change the fact, like, who's going to close these games, right? I mean, to me, the bullpen has been very, very kind of problematic. And I think and look, like, you know, you do praise them for what they did in the offseason in terms of, look, they kind of did take the bull by the horns and they were aggressive about it. And let's be proactive here. They sunk in a lot of money into Tanner Scott, into Kirby Yates. That kind of boxed him in a little bit too, though, right? Because look, either one of these guys, you couldn't give these contracts away now, right? No one's taking that money off your hands. And once kind of that happens, okay, now you're kind of stuck with the money. You're stuck with that roster spot. And so you are kind of limited a little bit in that way. And, I mean, obviously this is kind of like some Monday morning quarterbacking here, but, they're really kind of paying for the sins of the offseason, right? Where they missed on some guys, or some guys, right, that they're counting on got hurt or something. And they were kind of left with very little wiggle room, I think, to kind of squeeze their way out of this thing. But this is kind of where, though, I mean, again, for a front office that has been, kind of very creative and they've kind of been very prideful, I think, about this, right? Is that like, hey, we find different types of solutions that other people can't figure out. This felt like a very kind of conventional approach, right? I mean, again, this is what would have happened if the three of us were running the team, right? We would find some guys, a couple guys on the margins, and then we'd be hey, look, like we gotta count on Mookie to bounce back.
The Dodgers have never taken anything for granted. It seems like they're taking this team for granted. It's the first time I've ever seen them do that.
I think when they say we trust the group, we think it's as talented of a group as we ever had. Brandon Gomes said, we think this is a more talented group than even last year's team that did win the World Series. What I'm hearing is we are trusting in, to your point, Dylan, the moves we made this past winter, 2 winters ago, on the guys that we've brought in here and the way we built this team, right? Like when you look at what they've done over the last couple of years, it's building the rotation around Yamamoto, Glasnow, and Snell. I think that's a key reason, well, and Otani, if he doesn't cramp up in the future. I think that's a key reason, though, why like they're talking about trusting in this current group. Because if you do have Yamamoto, Otani, Snell, Glasnow all pitching well in the playoffs for you, that's a very formidable rotation. And that gives you a lot of margin for error on the other parts of the team. And if the lineup is struggling a little bit. When you look at how they built the lineup, they brought back Teoscar Hernandez, they extended Tommy Edman, they put Mookie Betts back at shortstop, which has limited a little bit of how they can adjust the roster, especially right now because Tommy Edman's ankle is bugging him. He might not be able to play the outfield very much the rest of this season like he did last year. That kind of limited them to just looking for outfielders at the deadline this year. To me, it's just like and then the bullpen guys, obviously with Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates, and trusting that they're going to be a little bit better, and that they brought back Blake Trinan at a more advanced stage, and he's been dealing with an injury, but they're trusting him to be good. And Michael Kopech, like that, to me is what this feels like. Is they made their bets the last couple winners that the guys they brought in then were going to be good for the sole purpose of not having to be in a position where they have to go out and overspend at the deadline and give up prospects they don't want and make deals that they think are bad. And even though this group hasn't looked great to now, that to me is what today felt like, is them saying, we trust how we built this team 4 months ago. No, it has not been as seamless as we hoped it would be, but we still think that the core talent is going to be good enough and that we can get the pieces clicking well enough over the last couple months here that we can get away with only doing more marginal moves at the deadline right now.
But here's the thing, though, right? I think you can take that attitude and that approach with the lineup, right? Because look, again, like some of these positions just kind of get locked down, and and again, this is also Mookie Betts, right? This is Freddie Freeman. These are top of the line, type guys, right? And that was the reason, like we all thought they were going to win 120 games at the beginning of the season. That's fine. I just think that over what the season has showed us, though, this pitching formula just kind of doesn't work, right? And part of, I think, at least like with Scott, is the fact that, I mean, these guys have just gotten pulverized over the course of this regular season. This combination of getting short starts, the overworked bullpen, the bullpen's just been blown to shreds here. And it's not gonna, right, just because, okay, well, we're getting Snell back, doesn't all of a sudden just freshen up Tanner Scott, right? It doesn't just all of a sudden fix Kirby Yates. It doesn't take innings off these guys' arms where they've already logged those innings. And that's why,
And
like,
it doesn't
right.
alleviate the injury concerns for guys like Trinan and Kopech and Gratterall, which I think is kind of the biggest risk in how you build the bullpen moving forward here.
Right. And frankly, right, and even like the injury risk on the starters, right? I mean, again, and I was kind of here saying, the last couple of weeks, and in terms of like, I wouldn't have even minded them going after like a starting pitcher, right? Because they just need innings somewhere. And right now, I don't know how they get 27 outs, 3 to 4 times, in a series, kind of depending which series it is. I'm not really sure the innings are there right
Well, I think they can.
What if Andrew Friedman is more concerned with LeBron and Luca? What if he's headed to the Lakers? Just throw it out there.
I don't know. I don't know how that would
he,
work in Otani's key man clause if he goes to the Lakers. Is it just he's got to be under
what
Guggenheim ownership, or
what's the equivalent of? Well, I mean, he dumped Matt Kemp. Remember, what's the
No.
equivalent of like dumping LeBron? Who's the Yasmani Grandal of basketball that's going to come back?
No, you're right, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, who from the Lakers, who from the Dodgers is going to go work for the Lakers? I bet Stan Kasten's the president.
Yeah, that'll probably happen. I mean, Lon will be over there regardless of whether.
I'll go there.
I mean, those guys are going to do what they do with the Dodgers, right? They're just going to go around and pretend they own the place when Mark Walter's not around, and when Mark Walter comes around, they're going to kiss his butt.
What if Andrew Friedman has a bug up his butt and he wants to do the NBA? I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Farhan would be the more likely candidate to be there. Speaking of which, they picked up one of Farhan's draft picks, right?
yes, they
What's
did.
his name? Tibbs the third.
James Tibbs the third, and
Tibbs 3.
I mean this was like such a great epitome of the days. Like the Dodgers were trading pieces off of the big league roster. James Outman went to Minnesota in the Brock Stewart deal. Dustin May goes to Boston for like 2 prospects at a time where he probably was going to be squeezed out of the pitching picture here. But again, like with injuries and other uncertainties, it's, you like he goes, even said himself, like, well, we could have used him in the bullpen, but
right.
And to be fair, like he also said that they had conversation with Dustin and as a pending free agent, he wanted to start games and that he wasn't going to have the opportunity to do that with the Dodgers moving forward. But yes, it was. I mean, I think the most jarring part about the deadline is it felt so detached from the team's play over the first 4 months, and especially this last month. And again, talking to these friends, like if you read the quotes that Brandon Gomes and Andrew Friedman gave in the weeks leading up to the deadline, they kind of foreshadowed like this is probably how it was going to look. Now, I didn't even believe that fully myself.
Have they earned grace if they don't win this year? Do they get criticized?
They should absolutely get criticized.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're just not going to. They're not going in, right? And I mean, at this point, all the criticism, they're used to it by now. They've, I mean, the first decade, right? They called it a fail. They themselves called it a failure. So they're used to failing and getting criticized.
But as long as they're charging for tickets, right, they got to try to win.
Yeah,
and they can't. We're worried about the sustained success. And I'm worried about that being what this was about today. Was about looking forward ahead and looking beyond this year, and that's a mistake.
All right, what's your guys' injury or concern level with Shohei Otani's cramping episode in Cincinnati the other night?
I thought he was done. I mean, I watched him. I thought he was seriously hurt. It looked terrible.
I mean, the velo is still there. Right.
I get cramps at night in bed. So
you call for the trainer.
Yeah.
Well, I think
stretch out.
The disconcerting part about yesterday was when he, right, so he, in Otani's scrums, right, he speaks first to the American English language media through the interpreter. Then the interpreter kind of excuses himself. The American media leaves and he speaks to the Japanese media later. And one thing he said to them was that because they kind of asked him, obviously he talked about not feeling great the last couple of days because of how hot it was over there. And they kind of asked him, well, how'd you feel about your at bats today? And he said, I can't really remember my at bats. He goes, the impression that I had was, basically I go to take my at bat and then I'd get treatment and his right. And basically kind of his kind of general recollection of the day is that he basically spent the day just getting treated. And the fact that somebody who's as locked in as him couldn't remember, yeah, right, couldn't remember his at bats. Now, again, it's really hot right now. It's hot in LA, and it's not even really that hot. So I can't imagine what
It
it's
was
like.
terrible.
Yeah, right. Okay. So, so look, most likely this is just a weather thing. But like you do kind of wonder, you go back, was it a week or two ago when Dave Roberts talked about, Otani kind of feeling this responsibility to kind of put the team on his back and kind of carry them. I am kind of wondering a little bit, is everything kind of catching up to him now? Because this feels
the last time a player has left with cramps. When's the last time a player left with cramps?
Probably Otani.
Yeah.
This has happened before, right? Because I think one of those years that he was I think it was the last year with the Angels. I mean, he was insisting on playing every single day, right? And the Angels, I think, were 4 or 5 games out of the division all the time. He insisted on playing every single day, and I think he cramped up like multiple times, right, and had to like leave games and stuff. And so this kind of reminds me a little bit of that in terms of, right, the team's not performing right now. He feels the responsibility. Obviously he's doing the two-way thing, so that kind of adds this extra physical burden. And so I'd be a little bit worried right now in terms of like what his form's going to look like kind of going down the stretch here. And that big lead that, that comfortable, we thought the division was over a couple of weeks ago. It's 3 games now. The Padres just loaded up. He's not really going to have the luxury, I think, of being able to just say, you know what, or Roberts isn't just, hey, you know what, just take these next couple of days off. Otani himself is also going to want to play. I'm not sure Roberts is going to get in the way of the best player in baseball saying he wants to play. So that's something I would keep an eye on.
They left him in the game to hit the other night. Yeah. He said, I asked him point blank, can you take your at bats? He said yes, but yeah.
I think right now the Phillies are a better team. The Cubs are a better team. The Mets are a better team. Dodgers are maybe the 4th best team in the league. No, the Brewers are a better team. So the Dodgers are 5th.
Okay, but again, like you think all those teams are better if the Dodgers have like their pitching intact? Because to me, that's still what this comes down to.
I don't care if it's ifs. We got to do in reality. I mean, my opinion. What have the Dodgers been watching? What have they been watching for the last 3 months that they wouldn't get a closer? What are they watching? What are they thinking?
Well, I think they're thinking back to last year and about, I mean, like Brandon Gomes said this part in his scrum today or in his Zoom today is like, we saw last year, if you peak at the right time, you get the right pieces kind of clicking together when it matters, you can win like we did last year. And I think that's how they look at it right now. And again, to me, yes, I agree with you guys. Like when it comes to the bullpen, Brock Stewart, whatever, nice story, nice piece, but he's not somebody, he has 2 career saves.
I could have sworn he was a backup quarterback. I'm thinking Brock Hubert, maybe.
I don't know. He sounds almost more like a NASCAR driver to me.
Yeah, I guess so.
But it leaves some uncertainty down there, and I think you are suddenly. To me, this reminds me more of like the 2022 season, and that 2022 team was in a much better place at the deadline than this team is now. But that was a team that was banking on some guys coming back from injury.
Chris Martin. That was the Chris Martin trade, right?
Yeah, and he was good. And I think, in a best case scenario for the Dodgers, like Brock Stewart's kind of like that for them the rest of the way. But even with Chris Martin being good, the rest of the pitching did not materialize in the way they thought it would when they were at the deadline. They did not go and get Juan Soto at that deadline. And then the lineup obviously really struggled in that postseason series against the Padres. And it just kind of felt like, maybe this team, just because Tyler Glasnow is back, even though he didn't look good in his last start against the Reds, because Blake Snell is back and has, at least last year was able to come back in the second half of the season and be maybe the best pitcher in baseball from that point on after missing time with the Giants. I think there's reasons to be optimistic about the starting staff. Yamamoto's continued to look good and sharp and is back on an upswing here his last 6 or 7 weeks. But you did leave yourself with not as much margin for error as you as you could have had if you went out and were more aggressive. And I think for a team that, like you guys talked about, doesn't know exactly how long this championship window is going to be open, but knows that this year, I mean, the thing about this year is all these other teams had to go out and make these big additions because all the other teams in baseball are flawed too right now. Look, this is the lowest winning. The Brewers are leading baseball with the best record, with the lowest winning percentage any team's ever had as the best team in baseball going into August. The
But
league is that wide open.
don't you think these teams smell blood now? Don't you think these teams
And
smell
yes,
vulnerability? And that's
I
like
think
that's
and I think that's part of it, right? The Dodgers have not been the super team people expected. They went into the deadline with some clear flaws. It became pretty clear like they weren't going to do something really big, and other teams saw opportunities to get a lot better. None more so than the San Diego Padres, who added all these pieces sort of with the external expectation was that they were going to then trade Dylan Cease or Robert Suarez or some other guys. No, they kept all their main guys. They added a lot of other pieces. I think they rounded out the lineup in an important way. They gave themselves another fresh arm in the bullpen, which they really needed. And suddenly, I think, yeah, the Dodgers, even if everything goes right the rest of the way, are going to be in a tight division race down the stretch, are going to be battling to, even if they win the division, get one of those top two seeds in the National League, and have a tougher road ahead of them, even if they feel good about where their roster is at.
How's Plaschke's guy done since he moved to the bullpen in AAA?
Oh,
Ooh.
see, now this is the
The
optimistic
juiceless Gagne.
the optimistic storyline you've overlooked is that Bobby Miller is now a reliever, and he
I called it. I said it.
Oh God, what a nightmare that would be if that's how the season ends.
Oh, that'd be so great. I'll be bragging about that. So is Bobby Miller closing games now?
He has pitched. Hang on, let me look here. I'm gonna do a little live baseball reference search. He pitched one game on Sunday. I think he gave up a run. There we go.
So he's ready to close for the Dodgers, is what you're saying.
Uh, Two relief appearances, gave up 3 hits and a run in the first one, retired all 3 batters he faced in the next one. There you go. I mean, they've been doing this with a. I mean, this is where some of the relief depth came in. Like they've been encouraged with what they've gotten out of Alexis Diaz so far. They put Ben Casparius back in a relief role. They have Justin Wroblewski kind of being like a reliever right now. I think Emmett Sheehan can be a multi-inning guy out of the pen. So this is part of their thinking is even if a few things go wrong, maybe we can hit on some of these other guys.
They have one good reliever right now. One good reliever. Alex Vesia. That's it. Alex Vesia is the only guy I trust. I pitch him every
Currently,
day.
yeah, yeah. You want to bring back Joe Kelly?
No, dear God, no. Mariachi Joe. The fans love him though.
No.
He's the most oddly loved Dodger that I've ever discovered. I mean, the fans have no reason to love him, but because he wore the Mariachi jacket one time.
And he pouted at Carlos Correa. Come
Yeah,
on.
that's right. That's right. Carlos Correa going back to the Astros. If you're the Dodgers, would you have traded for him?
Carlos Correa?
Yeah. No way.
Did you see the reception he gets when he
I
comes
know,
down with the
it's terrible.
Twins?
I know.
No, I would not. Well, how did you guys spend your deadline day? I'm curious. I had to be up at 3 a.m. to get on a flight and then to get into Tampa and spend 8 hours in my room. I hope you guys did it better.
I called Jack. I called you all day, Jack, trying to find out what the hell's going on.
I told you not much.
I know. It's so is it the Heat? Is it press box open air in Cincinnati?
We're gonna find out. It's 24 total seats, which is gonna be a squeeze for the large.
No, he was asking about Cincy.
Was it open in
Oh, in
Cincy?
Cincinnati?
Yeah.
There were windows, but that really just turned it into like a sauna because there was no air conditioning.
What?
Okay, well, if there was, it wasn't working.
They have no air conditioning in Cincinnati?
And the press
Really?
button, it's one of those like converted suites all the way down the left field line. It was
Oh, really?
terrible.
Oh, wait, they don't have air conditioning for the suites? Not even rich people get air conditioning.
Well,
What kind
I
of
mean, not
what kind
the
of
press
podunk
box one.
what kind of podunk market is that?
They got to save money. They just took on Brian Hayes' huge contract.
Oh my
I
god!
once covered a Kurt game in St. Louis with no shirt. I took my shirt off and covered it
No shirt.
bareback.
What do you
going bareback.
mean?
Oh
You took
god!
your shirt off?
Yeah, in the press box. Yeah, it was so hot. So hot. We were down to 100 degrees.
What a legend!
100 degrees. It was terrible.
When you do that, do you announce it to people or you just kind of quietly derobe?
Back then I had a body that I wasn't ashamed of. I couldn't do it today. I don't even take my shirt off from my own house. Jack, do you agree with him playing in a minor league stadium, Tampa? You think that's weird?
I mean, it's not ideal. They're playing 2 day games this week when it's going to be 95 degrees, humid, terrible. But apparently the setup here is better than in West Sacramento. So.
Wait, so where are they going to put everybody else if you're not one of the 24?
Great question.
Where's our friend Taro going to be sitting?
Great question.
Oh man,
the photos of Luca. He's on steroids.
No, he got it. Come on, he got on the men's fitness, high protein, low carb, no sugar diet program.
LeBron
I still want to see him. I still want to see him in person though, because the photos are all like taken from like a little bit of a weird angle.
Yeah, he's
I'm not totally buying yet.
He's gonna be in town on Saturday. Oh, and don't they have a Kobe Bryant bobblehead night coming up?
Yes.
I think
August something.
I wonder though, do we want skinny Luca?
No.
Isn't his
isn't
his girth part of his like? Oh, I know. Like I'm saying, like I know there's like a balance to it, right? Obviously, you don't want him to be like totally like gassed like in the fourth quarter like it was last year. But like, isn't his size kind of what makes him good? Because he's not like a super quick guy, right? I mean, part of it is like, he beats you to the spot, he kind of bumps you.
Still needs to be strong.
Yeah.
If you're Andrew Friedman, don't you go to Mark Walker and say, "I need a new challenge. Give me the Lakers." Well, seriously,
this is quite
the coach started doing his job.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think he's been successful enough to be able to like jump sports, man. It's been two championships, and how long has it been now?
He's the best executive in sports. Come on.
I don't know. With the one decade of failure and potentially a second one becoming a failure too. I don't think he's done enough yet.
I think he wants to challenge. I wouldn't be surprised if he gives the job to Gomes and goes over to the Lakers.
All right.
Here you are. Pelinka just made the greatest trade in like NBA history, and you wanted to fire him already.
Oh, they gave it to him. He didn't make the trade. The trade was made for him.
No, I was gonna say this is good. We got Plaschke spinning conspiracies about Andrew Friedman. We got Dylan worrying about Shohei Otani's amnesia at the plate. All is well in Dodgerland, apparently.
I can see Brandon Gomes walking into the Freeman's office and saying, "Hey, it's a trade deadline." He says, "I got LeBron on the phone. I'll be with you in a minute." That's what it feels like. It feels like if they fell asleep at the switch.
No, I just this is how they operate. They want to make moves on their terms, and this was not going to be the year, the market, or the needs that they had that were going to line up there. So, with marginal moves, they go. That we will see how they play out over the last 2 months. We're going to get the benefit of hindsight.
It'll be interesting.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully, we'll be back in the studio next week.
Thanks, Jack.
Plaschke will take his shirt off when we're in the studio.
Yes. No. I covered it all 9 innings, no shirt. It was a great game.
Yeah, I believe Dr. Pat will not turn off the air conditioning on us. So
yeah, we love Dr. Pat.